When Michael Anders returned to his childhood home after his mother passed, he expected to find grief, dust, and forgotten Christmas decorations. What he didn't expect was the stranger in the photograph. It was a quiet Tuesday in November when he found the first one. A faded Polaroid tucked inside the family photo album. The scene was familiar. His 7th birthday party, cake smeared across his face, his parents smiling awkwardly beside him. But in the background, near the edge of the yard, was a man Michael didn't recognize. He was wearing a dark coat, standing just beyond the party, almost out of frame. Not smiling, watching. Michael squinted, leaned closer. The man's face was hard to see, but it didn't look like any neighbor or family friend. He looked older, out of place. Michael dismissed it as coincidence. Some passerby, a guest of a guest, a trick of the light, until he found the second photo. It was in a separate album labeled Mom and Dad 1974. His parents' wedding, black and white. There in the crowd outside the church stood the same man, dark coat, pale face, just barely visible behind a pillar. Watching. Michael sat back in his childhood bedroom, albums spread across the bed like a crime scene. He began flipping through each one every year of birthdays, anniversaries, summer barbecues, and Christmas mornings. And the man, that same man, appeared again and again. He was never central, always in the background, in shadows and crowds. He didn't age. From 1974 to 1999, his expression never changed. His presence never shifted. Always the same coat, the same vacant stare. Michael's heart raced. He scanned one image, then the next, panic building like a drumbeat. Graduation photos, 4th of July parades. The man was there, at his high school baseball game. Standing by the fence, at his grandfather's funeral, behind the casket bearers. He pulled out a magnifying glass from his father's old drawer. The closer he looked, the more detail emerged, not less. A scar just under the man's right eye, a ring on his left pinky finger, obsidian stone etched with a symbol Michael didn't recognize. Michael checked the house for signs of tampering. Nothing. The albums had sat untouched for years. No one else had access. He Googled facial recognition services, fed in the clearest image he could scan. He uploaded it to a genealogy site. An hour later, the result came back with 3 chilling words. No match found. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. The house creaked and settled around him as it always had. But now every sound felt loaded, intentional. He tried to read, tried to drink enough whiskey to make sleep inevitable. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw the man's face behind them. At 3:17 a.m., he gave up. He sat in the kitchen staring at a photo he'd removed from the wall, a group shot from a family reunion in '85. There the man was, seated near the back under a tree, not part of the family, just there. He began to wonder if he was losing his mind. At dawn, Michael drove to the town historical society. He didn't call ahead. The curator, an older woman named Janice, remembered him and let him into the archives. He asked to see public records from the past century, event photographs, town hall meetings, parades. By noon, he had a pile of prints. And there he was again, in black and white, in sepia, even in daguerreotypes. One from 1912 showed the man in the exact same coat, hat in hand, standing behind a group of miners. Another from 1889 and in front of the original church showed him at the far left, pale, watching. Janice noticed his shaking hands. "You all right, honey?" Michael pointed to the man in a 1925 town festival photo. "Who is this?" She looked, squinted. "Huh, never noticed him before. Doesn't look familiar? Odd clothes for the time. You don't recognize him. He's in dozens of these. She hesitated. Now that you mention it, he is. Maybe a reenactor? Someone who liked dressing up? Michael shook his head. He hasn't aged, not in 100 years. Michael left the archive with a box of photocopies and a growing knot in his stomach. On the drive home, he passed a billboard that hadn't been there yesterday. It was blank except for a phrase in black serif font. "We see you too, Michael." He slammed on the brakes, reversed, the sign was gone. A real estate ad stood in its place. His heart pounded. He didn't imagine it, he knew he hadn't. When he got back to the house, he took every photo with the man and spread them on the floor like a giant puzzle. 57 images, each one dated, chronological. And then he saw it. In every image, the man was closer to the camera. In the earliest ones, he was barely visible, a blur behind a window, a silhouette in a doorway. But over time, he moved forward. By the 1990s, he stood near the edge of groups. By Michael's college graduation, he was 2 rows behind him, still never making eye contact, still watching. In the most recent image, a New Year's Eve party in 2004, he was only 5 feet from the lens, staring directly ahead. Michael's hands trembled. He gathered the photos and burned them in the fireplace, one by one, until only ash remained. But when he looked back at the family wall by the stairs, the framed collage his mother had kept there since he was little, the man was still there, in every image. Dark coat, same face, unmoving. The next day, he took the photos to a specialist in Denver, a woman named Dr. Isabel Crane, a forensic analyst who sometimes consulted on police cases. He showed her the images. She ran them through spectrum analysis, heat mapping, UV tracing. "This isn't a trick," she finally said. "They're authentic. He's really in these. No sign of manipulation." "So who the hell is he?" She hesitated. "I don't know, but he's watching you." That night, Michael returned to his motel, unable to face the silence of the old house. He double-locked the door, closed the blinds, and left the television on for noise. But when he opened his phone gallery, a new photo appeared. He hadn't taken it. It showed his motel room, the same bedspread, same lamp, but it was shot from inside the closet, and in the corner of the frame, half in shadow, stood the man. Michael dropped the phone. He threw open the closet. Nothing. Just wire hangers and musty towels. The next morning, the motel manager insisted no one had entered. No cameras showed anything strange. Michael returned to the old house. He stood in front of the largest mirror in the hall, one his mother used to polish obsessively. He stared at his reflection, expecting something. Movement, a flicker, anything. Instead, he saw the man, standing behind him. Michael turned. Nothing. The hallway was empty, but the mirror still showed the man, closer than ever, inches behind him, a faint smile curling his lips. Michael smashed the mirror with a chair. Shards scattered like snow across the hardwood floor. He collapsed in the wreckage, shaking. He began to see him elsewhere, not in photos anymore, but in glass, in puddles, in car windows, never moving, never blinking, just watching. Michael drove to the mountains. He needed distance, needed to think. He brought only essentials, food, water, and a camera with no memory card. He camped near Echo Ridge, far from any cell tower or town. For 2 days, nothing happened. He began to breathe again, began to think maybe it was done, or that the burning had worked, that he'd broken whatever cycle he had stumbled into. On the 3rd night, he woke to find his campfire burning high, though he hadn't lit it in hours. Around the fire sat a circle of photographs, printed images, and all of them were of him, sleeping, eating, walking. And in every image, the man in the coat stood just behind him. Michael ran, through trees, over rocks, until he collapsed from exhaustion. When he woke, it was morning, and in his hand was a photo. He didn't remember picking it up. It was a photo of him collapsed on the ground, taken from above. That was when he realized this thing wasn't haunting his family. It was haunting him, specifically, purposefully. He returned to the house and searched every room. Finally, in the attic, he found a hidden trunk behind an old armoire. Inside, more photos, hundreds. None of his family, all of strangers. Different eras, different faces, all with the same man in the background. Always watching. He wasn't the first. He wouldn't be the last. At the bottom of the trunk was a note, faded, handwritten. You look at him long enough, and he looks back. You photograph him often enough, and he comes closer. If you see this, burn everything, leave nothing, or he will step out of the frame. Michael looked at his hands. They were shaking. He grabbed a matchbox, doused the trunk in gasoline, lit the flame. As the fire grew, a sound rose in the attic, low, like a distant voice carried on the wind. The fire didn't flicker. It fought back, roaring against the insulation, curling upward. Michael stumbled downstairs. Smoke filled the stairwell. He grabbed the last photo frame from the hallway wall and hurled it into the fire. The flames screamed. Outside, he watched the house collapse, timbers groaning, photos turned to cinders. But the man, he wasn't gone. In the smoke above the ruins, Michael saw his silhouette. Not watching anymore, not waiting, walking toward him. And as the smoke wrapped around Michael, curling like fingers, he finally understood the message of the photos. The man had never been trapped in them. He had been waiting to be seen. And now he was. 6 months later, in a town 200 miles south, a woman named Angela Pierce found an old camera at a yard sale. Leather-bound, heavy, untouched by time. She lifted it, aimed it playfully at her husband, and clicked the shutter. The photo rolled out instantly, too fast for a film model. Angela laughed. Her husband frowned. "That's weird," he said, squinting. "Who's that guy?" In the background, barely visible through the trees, stood a man in a dark coat, pale, distant, watching. Angela turned the photo over. Someone had written in faded pencil, "Don't look too long. He'll know." The couple chuckled and tossed the photo aside. That night, Angela dreamt of footsteps just beyond her door. When she opened her eyes, the photo was on her nightstand, and the man was closer now. She taped the photo to the refrigerator, too unsettled to throw it away. Over the next week, the power in the house flickered every night at 3:17. Shadows lingered too long in mirrors. The dog barked at empty rooms. Then one morning, her husband was gone. All that remained was the photo, and now the man stood where her husband had been. Angela never spoke of it, but the photo remained, waiting,